bwe badde etambula bukyanga lutalo n'olutanduddamu ate kusitula enkundi mu ggwanga lino erya Congo bannansi era bannamagye b'eggwanga lino erya South Africa abawerera ddala 10 babadde ezaabwe balusuddemu akaba oluvannyuma lw'okubanga babadde bakubibwa amasasi n'emizinga mu mbeera y'okulaba nga baali badduukiridde bannansi b'eggwanga lino erya Congo. Ono mu mbeera bw'etyo ayogerera ekitongole ekikuumaddembe mu ggwanga lino erya South Africa yaviiriddeyo n'ategeeza n'agamba nti ezimu ku nkambi zaabwe ze babadde balina mu ggwanga lino erya Congo zalumbiddwa era mwana wattu ebintu ebiwerako ne birabika nti byayonooneddwa era mu mbeera bw'etyo abajaasi bawerera ddala 10 ab'eggwanga lino erya South Africa ezaabwe ezavuunikiddwa kati ku byekuusa ku lutalo n'obulumbaganyo bwakolebwa mu mbeera eri mu ggwanga lino erya Congo. Mu mbeera bw'etyo awo nno yategeezezza nti bonga eggwanga lya South Africa bakyalwana bw'enzizingiri okulaba nga bazza emirambo gy'abannamagye bano 10 abafiiridde mu lutalo mu ggwanga lino erya Congo. Eyo nno yembeera bw'etyo bw'eri mu ggwanga lino erya Congo. Awo nno ndowooza w'otunula ku screen yaffe n'otunulira ekigenda mu maaso bannamagye oba bano bamukwata mundu aba M23 bagezaako okulaba nga bazza abagwira bano ababadde bali mu bitundu ebyenjawulo kulaba nga babagobaganya okulaba nga baddayo mawanga gye baali baava ate olutalo lutandika okulaba nga lugenda mu maaso bo nga bo bategeeza kimu era mu bitundu bye bagenze nga batuuka ategeeza bannansi bonna bonna nti bo tebabalinaako obuzibu babulina ku bannamagye b'eggwanga lyabwe erya Congo. Naawe bonna bonna batabakemabaga katono oyo ayinza okwebuuza ani akulira akabinja kano aka M23 yenga ko aka M23 akabinja kano kayinza kubanga amakanda kagasinzidde kuvaawa otunulamuko ebyo obanga ogenze n'okunoonyereza akabinja kano aka M23 amakanda gaako gayinza okubanga gali mu kitundu ekiyitibwa North Kivu ngero gye bava ne basensera ebitundu ebyenjawulo mu ggwanga lino erya Congo. Ono bano bakulirwa omukulu ayitibwa Sultan Makenge ng'ono y'omuduumizi ow'oku ntikko ow'akabinja kano akabinja kano akayitibwa aka M23. Nakutegeezezza nti akabinja kano aka M23 kigambibwa nti erinnya lino liyinza okuba nga liva mu Maaci w'omwaka gwa 2012 nga wano waliwo okuteesaganya okw'enjawulo okwali kwatuukibwako wakati mu kubanga amawanga agawerera ddala 11 gatula kukkaanya ne gabaako ekiwandiiko ekyenjawulo gye gasayiningako okuzza emirembe mu ggwanga lino erya Congo. Bano okuvaayo ne beetuuma erinnya lino kiyinza okuba nga kisimbuzibwa okuva ku mwaka ogwo ogwa 2012 mu mwezi ogwo ogwa Maaci w'omwaka ogwo. Awo no mu mbeera bw'etyo ebyo bye bikwata ku bakulu bano aba M23. Olunaku olw'enkya ngenda kubanga nzija nkwongere biki ebitambula mu nsi na biki ebitambula mawanga ag'enjawulo kutegeeza kimu nti gwe eyakedde naffe ng'okyagiriko GMTV kyokola kya nsusso programs nyingi nnyo ezibeerawo okuva ku makya tandika ne morning dew erimu abaana abavubuka abo embavu abajja okulaba nga bakuteekerateekera olunaku ate ofuba okulaba ng'ogenda ku mulimu ng'oli mu mood ezikola. Bwe bavaawo programs nyingi nnyo ezibaawo era ne program Sports Central ebeerawo wano gwe nno wenna omwagazi w'akapapula abakulu webali okulaba nga bakutemeratemera ensonga ate otambulire kumanya ne mupiira eyo mu byemizannyo. Mu mbeera bw'etyo njagala nkugambe nti wano nnyinza okuba nga sigenda kusukkawo koze ne ttiimu nene nnyonnyo. Producer Dennis abaddeyo mu control room okutuusaako bino ate n'okulaba ng'atema empenda kuva program eno weetandika tukutuuseeko ebyo ebitambula mu nsi. Omukyala Irene abaddewo wano ku kamera ate ne Rukia abaddewo wano ku kamera okulaba nga bategonyola ebyuma by'omuzungu bino okutuusaako ekifaananyi kino. Sigenda kubanga nsukkawo wano kaŋŋende nange embeeko emirala gye ntuusaako engalo naye nga nkutegeezezza nti enamba yaffe eyo ebeerawo ku screen ogenda okubanga otuweereza amawulire agagafa mu kitundu kyo ate nago tulabeyo nga nago tugatunulamu ate tutambulire kumanya kutegeeza kimu nti programu eno ekitundu kyaffe ekisooka tutunulira biki ebitambula wano mu ggwanga ti Uganda ate mu kitundu kyaffe ekyokubiri netugendako mawanga ago ag'ebunaayira nago ne tufuna eddaala ne tusomogosa ebyo ebiba mu mawanga ago agatususse oba agali awala ate nabyo n'ofuba okulaba nga obyota buliro. ono mu mbeera bwetyo kankwerekereze tulabagane olunaku olw'enkya awangale omuterega.
Companion designed to simplify your life. GM Pay is available to download on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Experience the future.
Teweraliikirira downloading a GMTV app. Ofune essanyu litakoma wonna wooli. GMTV app ye TV ey'omu ngalo. Eriko obuzannyo ne firimu enjogerere ssaako n'emipiira.
Boda, students in me, boda, students in me, boda.
Four people. 3 US Army soldiers were on board the Black Hawk military helicopter, which was on a training flight. Moments before the crash, an air traffic controller can be heard asking the helicopter if it has the American Airlines passenger plane in sight, according to CNN, the news network. Another warning is then given by air traffic control, and seconds later, the collision happens. The audio was published by Live ATC, which is a site that focuses on aviation communications for more than 1,200 airports. By the BBC. It's not been verified. The audio does not appear to include any response from the helicopter to the warnings. Doug McLean is an aviation expert and former senior manager at National Air Traffic Services. Welcome to the programme.
Good morning, Emma.
What do you have to say on this?
Horrible tragedy to wake up to. Yes. Busy airport, a lot of traffic in and out using multiple runways at Washington, and everything seemed to be
as well as American Airlines.
Normal.
They continue to give us information. NTSB gets involved.
We
will now know more information about what happened last night.
Absolutely, and we are getting a response from the White House this morning. President Trump and the White House officials there sending out this statement saying that the president has been fully briefed on the accident which took place at Reagan National Airport. He said, "May God bless their souls and thank you to the incredible work being done by first responders." He says that he is monitoring the situation and will provide more details as they arise. I would speculate that he will probably give some sort of statement as we get closer to the morning hours. Of course, I would hear we are coming up on 4 a.m. But as the morning develops, but of course, still so much unknown at this hour. That search, that frantic search for survivors, still underway.
Statement saying U.S. figure skating can confirm that several members of our skating community were sadly on board the American Airlines flight 5342, which collided with the helicopter yesterday evening in Washington, D.C. These athletes, coaches, and family members were returning home from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championship in Wichita, Kansas. So, of course, these are some of the first victims that we know so far that were on that flight 5342 American Airlines coming from Wichita, Kansas, back to D.C. And it is just a sad day all around for not only this community of figure skaters, but their families who were on board that flight there. We don't know if there were mother, kids. We know that there were a lot of people on this flight, at least 60 folks confirmed now that were on that flight, 4 crew members, as well as those 3 airmen who were there, Army airmen who were a part of this flight, soldiers who were killed in all of this. And of course, Sunrise. We're checking on that at 7:15, which will give us a better view of what's happening there within the Potomac.
Right, that'll certainly help some of those first responders out there. As we mentioned to you, we've had live team coverage for you since this incident happened shortly after 8:30 yesterday evening on Wednesday evening. And we've got our Nana St. Ubonsu, who's also out at DCA, Reagan National Airport this morning with another update. And she's been there for that press conference all evening, and she's going to give us the latest update. I know there were several key points that you mentioned the mayor spoke about and several of those other officials, Nana.
Yes, Jacqueline and Stephen, good morning. There are a couple updates that we received from that press conference. I just want to give you guys an idea of where we're standing now. We've been moving around all evening into the early morning. We're currently on the ticketing level of Terminal 2, and right behind me here is a different vantage point of this huge response. Again, we're told over 300 people, men and women, working hard for this mission that is now a rescue. Let's go to the points that were brought up. So again, we know that we have hundreds of people here diving and boats from all over the area. We're told this is a unified command with state and federal response taking place. I know Bob touched on this, Sierra touched on this, but you know, they kept emphasizing in this press conference that these conditions are extremely rough. 1, it's cold, and 2, it's windy. And I mean, as you can see, it's still dark. So I can only imagine that these responders are truly waiting on the daylight. You know, we were told that this operation is going to last many hours. It's going to be going on for quite a while, and we've been here for quite a while, and it's just really hard to see, obviously, because it's late. But where we are, you have the runway, and then you have the flashing lights coming from the different emergency vehicles, and then right after that is the Potomac River, where, you know, the scene is taking place right here. We did get a chance to speak with a couple people in the terminal. One woman says she was actually on her flight, boarded around 8 o'clock, getting ready to take off. And all of a sudden, she got a message from the pilot on her plane, basically saying, we're going to have to, everyone has to get off board. There's just been an accident. She says you could just hear the number of emergency response vehicles kind of racing towards this runway area. And for passengers like her, she says a lot of them didn't get information. As we've been reporting, this airport is closed. It's shut down. There's not a lot that you can do coming in or out. So we did see a number of passengers kind of just waiting to figure out what is next. We've been saying, airport officials say the airport won't open till 11 o'clock in the morning, but we've also been told that that's fluid and that could change, all depending on this rescue that's taking place right over here behind me. Don't want to repeat too much of what you know, my colleagues have already shared with us, but I can say there's so many questions, and right now, coming out of that press conference, we weren't able to get answers in regard to how many people body or remains have been recovered. Mayor Bowser, the fire chief, airport authorities were not going into that. They said right now their only focus is a rescue, and that's what we see happening behind us over here. I mean, you just have, you see the lights, and right behind those lights, that's that Potomac River over there. Again, it's just important to note that these conditions, they are good. It's very cold out. It's dark. It's windy. And you have men and women, over 300 people trying their hardest to help kind of just bring some kind of answers. to families who were actually told who arrived here to pick up their loved ones. And now they're in that unification center that's at Terminal 1, not too far from Sierra. I know we've been sharing that number, but it's important. Anyone who may be waking up to this tragedy or terrible news, or someone who is expecting their loved ones to come home, the resources are here. The airport says American Airlines has already set up that center, so just call that number or come to the airport and they will help guide you. But again, very fluid, so much taking place right here. This is just a different vantage point of the hard work that's going on behind here. And, you know, Jacqueline and Stephen, as the information comes in, we'll share it, but we're just at a place right now where we just don't know. We can only paint a picture of what we see, but when it comes to, you know, the questions that people truly have, how many people, has anyone been recovered? We don't have those answers, but we're hoping that at 7:30, Mayor Bowser just announced that at 7:30, that will be the next press conference. So we're hoping that we can get some more answers, but till then, we'll wait for the sunlight to come out and see what else we can get from this, guys.
All right, Nana, thanks so much for that update. As she mentioned, we do not have any confirmed numbers on survivors or fatalities. That is something to keep in mind. That is a point we keep reiterating because you may be seeing out there other people confirming other information. But until we get that down from officials, we here at Fox 5 do not want to share that because these are people's livelihoods, right? There are people standing by waiting to find out the status of their loved ones that were on that flight. And so this is really a life or death situation, quite literally, that people are having to watch unfold here on TV. And so we want to make sure we're being sensitive when we're sharing that information with people at home.
That's right. So once we get that information, we will certainly give it to you as quickly as possible. But for right now, what we do know is that we have reporters scattered all across that scene there. And as you're looking at live pictures right now of our images there on our Stax camera, just overlooking the Potomac where that scene is taking place, we do have a map there of exactly where folks are. You see that search point there, the map showing Arlington on one side and Washington on the other. It's just smack dab in the middle, right there at Reagan National Airport. But we do want to bring in Bob Barnard right now, who has been on the scene all night long. And Bob, this is just a historic moment for the nation's capital, but not in a good way. And I know you've been covering many things in this region. And I tell you what, this is a scene that I don't think that image that we saw, that plane and that helicopter colliding, that'll never erase out of our minds. So can you give us some context to what you're seeing and where we are right now on this rescue effort?
Yeah, Stephen and Jacqueline, we're on the western side of the Potomac River, just south of Reagan National Airport on Dangerfield Island, and we're hearing boats on the water. You can see the helicopters behind me there. That is the the flashing lights you see there are at the southern end of the Reagan National Airport property, and they've been there all night. The Capitol off in the distance. There is a helicopter flying ahead, up above, just ahead of us here, like heading right at us, and it has been shining a light on the water surface here, on the surface of the Potomac River, between the southern end of Reagan National Airport and then down the river toward Joint Base Anacostia Bowling, where there are a bunch of spotlights and other lights there on the water surface. We're not 100% sure of the layout, but we believe the aircraft is over there, being illuminated for the first responders by those spotlights on the river, just south of the runways here at Reagan National Airport. And so there have been first responders there, and also at the airport. I came here to Dangerfield Island around 11:30 last night, and then did a big drive around, and you could see that the entrances to Reagan National Airport were closed. Went over to 295 South, all the way to the MGM hotel down at National Harbor, and the entrances to the base, the national, the laboratory, and also Blue Plains, the water treatment facility. All of those entrances were closed to any other traffic but first responders. Those are the areas closest to the water where this search and recovery operation is ongoing. So we're on this side of the river, basically as close to and with the best vantage point to see what's happening from not long after the two aircraft went into the Potomac River. So we're on the western shore looking east. The sun will be rising eventually and helping these first responders who've been out all night on boats, with the helicopter in the air, on the ground. And as you mentioned, Stephen and Jacqueline, just trying to make sense of what happened here, something we haven't seen in this country in well more than a decade, and not here in D.C. in more than 40 years. The thought that there are as many as 67 souls lost in the river, and the efforts to recover them continue. I don't know if you can hear it. I'm going to be quiet for just a moment as you can hear the helicopter go overhead here. I'll let you see it. It's probably just a dot on your TV screen. But that's one of the helicopters that's been up tonight, and you can hear, yeah, and you can see that. And then there, and I'll show, Miles Pearson is my photographer. Miles, come down here, and you see there is a boat on the water going from left to right with a kind of a red flashing light behind it, heading into where the spotlights are.
Challenges. I'm just wondering, Bob, from your perspective, how many boats are you seeing? How many boats are you seeing? How many helicopters have you seen pass you in the last couple of hours? How many helicopters have you seen pass you in the last couple of hours? And just to give us a context of how big this operation is.
Yeah, I mean, it is big, but right now there is just one helicopter up. And it's not the same one we've seen. You can kind of tell as they go by. There have been different helicopters throughout the evening, throughout the early morning and overnight on the water, and we've seen others. In fact, at one point, one of the boats that was on the river came over here and exchanged crews. Some people got off and others got on and then headed back out. And at times, like this helicopter at this hour, this early hour, it's not tonight any longer, it's this morning, and some boats have been in the water searching much closer to this shoreline, even though the wreckage here, so, there can't be much of a current, but their search area is fairly wide here, with, at this hour, one helicopter and at least one boat that we can see and hear, but there have been many others throughout the night.
Hey, Bob, I wanted to ask you, you are one of our reporters here that's been here the longest with us, among many others. But, 1982, I think it was the last time that a plane crashed there into the Potomac. You briefly referenced it a few moments ago, saying about 4 decades ago. I just want to know your perspective of what we've seen over the past several decades there at Reagan National Airport when it comes to planes, the response there, the growth that has happened there. You've really been here for all of that to where we are today. Can you put that into perspective for us?
Yeah, and I mean just telling you about the crash, the Air Florida crash. It was a Reagan to Tampa flight that took off during a snowstorm, and it came out that the pilot was determined to take off, and even though they had de-iced the plane, and it was still snowing and frigid conditions, that plane took off from Reagan Airport heading north and fell from the sky and clipped the 14th Street Bridge. Some people survived, but many were killed. And the whole area has grown so much since, including the airport, which in just the last year has had debates over whether to add more long-distance flights, driven mainly by members of Congress who are from the West Coast and don't want to have to go out to Dulles or up to BWI and want to fly out of Reagan National. It's a very busy airport with a limited footprint, primarily one major north-south runway, and not that something like this is bound to happen. I mean, there are mechanisms on aircraft to kind of warn of approaching other aircraft to try to since they've had to actually put into practice what they train for in a real situation as devastating as this.
Yeah, Bob, very insightful. Thank you. Like he said, all hands on deck from those first responders. And he also mentioned that conversation, that debate that's been happening amongst Congress over the past year. This flight specifically from Kansas, from Wichita, Kansas to D.C., it's only been serving American Airlines for about a year. Yeah. So I think maybe just under a year, perhaps. So that's something to keep in mind, but something that they do pretty frequently, of course. And American Airlines, they are keeping us updated on what is happening with their developments. We do have their hotline that they have open for folks out there that may be wondering
Right from are ongoing throughout the search area. So we're at 35 degrees, which according to U.S. Search and Rescue Task Force, you're going to lose consciousness in as little as 15 to 30 minutes. So again, not exactly the best ideal conditions, especially in terms of water temperature. In addition to that, they're dealing with some ice in the water. Fortunately, the only good thing is that we do have at least calm conditions in the water. So that's at least some good news. That wind that has unfolded over it will be bright enough to at least slightly before that sunrise, around 6:40, clear visibility for today. So visibility should be upwards of 10 miles, which is very typical on a clear day. Sunrise around 7:15 a.m.
The weather here across the search area. So I'm going to break down a better visibility of where we are looking at. This kind of gives you a better visual of where it is in reference because around 5 to 15 feet, but right there in that specific area,
for police activity between GW and US 1. So, of course, follow the posted detours in that area. But again, like I said, mainly those closures were around last night when initially everything had kind of occurred over there near DCA. Of course, if you are headed through that area as well, if you're headed into work this morning, wherever you're headed throughout the DC area, just keep in mind there's going to be that police presence, that increased police presence in several areas around there. Of course, with everything we get in terms of developments, there will just be a very increased amount of police presence in the area. But for now, it looks like the only closure you're looking at is kind of in that Arlington area. Again, the airport access road going to be closed for police activity between GW and US 1. Back to you guys.
All right, Taylor, Annie Mae, thanks so much. We appreciate you bringing us up to speed on all of that. In the meantime, let's get back out to our team coverage this morning. We have Melanie Olnwick joining us now. She is relieving our other reporters out there that have been at DCA all night long. Good to have you here with us, Melanie. From what we understand, Reagan National is going to be closed at least until 11 a.m. this morning. Some people may be waking up right now thinking they have a flight to get on, but that is not going to be the case whatsoever this morning.
That's correct. And, you know, honestly, I think that's kind of let's just say a hopeful timeline because just given the first responders and all the work that we've seen out here. it's kind of hard for me to think that we would all of a sudden be able to have so many people coming in and out of this airport and flight operations resuming at 11 this morning. But again, they said at least. And so we will stand by and see. There is going to be another press conference here at 7:30 this morning. But you can see all around the airport these what would be flight arrivals and departure boards and basically the information about the baggage that's coming on which carousel. Now they all say the same thing, that all flights are being held, that customers need to check with their airline representatives. We can tell you that Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority CEO Jack Potter did say that at the time that crash happened, they were they did divert some flights to Dulles Airport, 19 aircraft and personnel. Also that Metro agreed to have some extra hours so that they could get people where they needed to go from here. Again, so much mutual aid coming from around the area, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. We've heard that there are fireboats from Charles County, divers from Baltimore City. And don't forget, all of this is happening while the city still is responding to fires and medical emergencies as well. You do have the NTSB here. You have the FAA. You have the U.S. Coast Guard. So many different groups working together, all in this operation. And we should mention all of them dedicated